So I first met Sheila Johnson when I was managing the Morgan Stanley South Carolina territory. Yeah, I gotta tell the story. When the Confederate flag was flying just a couple blocks around from my office. So I reached out to Sheila and she accepted my invitation. And she came and spoke to predominantly white business professionals of how she brought down the Confederate flag here. In the middle of and her emphasis was the importance of bringing it down because it's great business. As you can see, that's come to fruition. So Kwame is here a few years ago celebrating his Newbery Medal for crossover when he introduced himself to Sheila. So when you meet Kwame, you feel his love of black culture and his creative spirit, and you just want to help him succeed in championing the black narrative. When you meet Sheila Johnson and her passion, you really want to help her ensure her legacy. So fast forward tonight, Kwame has brought his writer's retreat to Sheila's Salamander Resort. We were fortunate enough to sponsor the reception. Sheila was sponsoring the dinner.
Thank you.
And why am I sharing? I'm sharing this with you because this is when it's impressive when people of color come together to support one another. And it really helps us rebound from the discriminatory history that has trapped us all. This is how we continue to be the undefeated. So tonight's a celebration of how connections can create a light for the world to see. So now it's my pleasure to introduce to you the businesswoman who's made this beautiful place happen for us. Sheila Johnson, CEO, founder, and Salamander Hotel and Resorts. Sheila Johnson.
Thank you, everybody. Welcome to Salamander. So I'm a little bit of a storyteller. So I just want you to know that recently I just became a grandmother as of 2 years ago, and I got another one that just came on. So it gives me great pleasure to know that my 2 beautiful grandchildren won't have to search for their history or feel unseen or unheard because of their race. In my youth, most toys, books, and TV shows only featured white faces. Writers like Kwame Alexander are producing work, creating a literary legacy that documents the black experience in an amazing way for our current and future generations. Now I'm going to go a little bit off script because I want to tell you all the story of the grounds that you're standing on right now. Back in 2002, all of this land belonged to the late Pamela Harriman. When she passed away, a broker came to me and said, would you be interested in buying the 340 acres? I came up here, and I had been entrenched in the town for since 1996. And one thing I noticed about the town was lack of diversity. I also didn't feel very welcome here, but also the town was totally bankrupt. They were struggling even to keep the water supply going within this little town. So I came up with the idea, and I had started early. I built a performing arts center in town because there were no arts around here. And then I also bought a building in town, which was a gun shop. Every time I drove through that town, big old Confederate flag was in the window. So I finally called my lawyer and I said, you know what? I got to buy something. And he goes, what is it you want to buy? I said, there's a building with guns in it, Confederate flag, and it's not very welcoming to tourists that come through here. So he was able to get it done without them knowing it was me. So I was able to take the flag out of there. It is now a beautiful food market in town. It's Market Salamander. But that was just the beginning of my journey, because I really wanted to open this area up in the minds of the people. And that's why I decided to come up with building a resort up here. So anyway, I started the whole idea of building this resort. I woke up the next morning, and on both sides of the highway was Don't BET Middleburg. And I'm like, I think we got a problem. Called the lawyer again, and I said, you need to call the sheriff's department, because this is not right, and it's illegal for them to do that. So about 10 years later, that's how long this fight went on. They did not want me here. They did not want this resort here. I went through more hearings. My life was threatened. My kids' lives were threatened. FBI came in because there was interstate mail fraud going on with hate mail. And I will never forget sitting in the town council office when the vote was going down. I won by one vote. One vote. And people kept saying, why don't you just give up? Why don't you stop doing it? I said, no, that's not what the Salamander's all about. The Salamander, and I'll tell you this quick story so you'll understand what Salamander means. I bought a farm 4 miles from here from a guy named Bruce Sunland. And his story is portrayed in Hogan's Heroes on TV. And when I met with Bruce Sunland, I said, can I change the name to Salamander? And he said, yeah, you can do whatever you want. But he was a fighter pilot, and he was shot down over Nazi-occupied Belgium. His entire unit was captured. He was able to escape, and he went all the way across Europe and went into Allied territory, France. And so the U.S. came to him and said, look, we got to go. We got to get your guys out of this POW camp. And we're going to give you the code name Salamander. And he said, well, what does it mean? They said, mythically, it's the only animal that can walk through fire and still come out alive. And King Louis XIV had salamanders all around his moat that protected his castle. I said, you know what? And I was at a period in my life, going through a divorce and everything. I needed to walk through that fire and come out because it was going to make me stronger. And the salamander stands for perseverance, courage, and fortitude. So as you're standing on these grounds, I want you to think about that. My employees recite that every day because I want them to never give up. I want them to strive for excellence. They're going to persevere. So like the salamander, people of color have been tested time and time again, and yet we've prevailed. Literature and the arts are an important part of our preservation. And as you walk on these grounds, I urge you to take a moment and I want you to listen. If you try, you may hear the spirits of the enslaved ancestors. I like to think they are crying tears of joy for our presence. I know they are here at this dinner. For you are taking a rightful place at the table that history wrongfully denied them. I just want to thank you all for coming to this resort and honoring Kwame. And I want to thank you for the work that you are doing to recording these stories. Have got a connection with Kwame. Thank you for supporting him and helping all of his stories come true. They are so important. So I want to thank you again for being here.